One of the most common things I hear when using this problem on complex numbers is that it is impossible, that there is actually no answer that you can make to this problem. And I think it's really worthwhile because I hear this when I'm working with adults or with teachers, students. Anyway, let's actually explore it together and see if that's actually the case. And it says using the integers -9 to 9 and most one time each, place an integer in each box twice. So we're gonna do this 2 different times. Once to make a positive real number product, and then once to make a negative real number product. And the assumption here is that you can reuse all the numbers each time you do it. So now the question is like, well, there's i's here, right? This is an imaginary part and there's a real part, and it's gonna make a complex number. So how would you possibly get rid of the imaginary part to only have a real number that's left? And so, if we're guessing and checking, this is gonna be challenging. So let's just try it out. Let's just try guessing and checking. So we'll do 6, 3, we can use negative numbers, -4 and 2. I don't know, let's actually make that a 0. I don't know why, but that feels kind of good right now. Make it a 0. Maybe that's the idea is we'll get rid of that. So I'm not a big fan of thinking of it as FOIL as opposed to sort of distributive property and multiplication. But so we have -24 plus, hello, that's Tatiana, possibly on screen. We have, then we have 6 times 0i, so that's going to give us 0. And then we're going to have 3i times -4, so we're going to have -12i. And then we're going to have 3i times 0i, which is also 0. And now we are basically at -24 plus -12i, which is not real. So that did not work. And so maybe this problem is impossible and we should just give up. But the question then is, well, if it's not impossible, what are we looking for here to make that happen? And there's a lot of ways you could think about it. Like, for example, difference of 2 squares, you can think about, there are situations where those middle terms kind of disappear, and how do we make that happen? And so in that particular case, this cat is just like staring out into space. Do you have any suggestions for numbers we could use? No? Okay, that's great. So in this particular case, if we can think about multiples that maybe would work together, that would possibly cancel things out. And so, well, what numbers could we work here? Because, for example, if we had this be, if there was a 6i term and a -6i term, those cancel out, and then the i's just disappear. And then these are going to become a -1. So we could think about, like, what could we do to make that happen? What numbers have multiple factors that work? So in this particular case, let's start with 12. With 12, we could have 4 times 3. We could also have 6 times 2. So let's play around with that. If we do like a 4 and a 3 and a 6 and a 2, do we even put them in the right spots? So we have 4 times 3. So first we'll have 4 times 2 is 8. And then we have plus outside. So we have 12i. Oh, important to note here, as we're going to see in just a second, we have them plus 12i again. That did not work so well because guess what? Need to have a negative number there. So let's change this to -2. So now that 4 times -2 gives us -8. 4 times 3i still gives us 12i, but now 6 times -2 gives us -12i, which is going to be quite useful. And then we have 6 times 3, which gives us 18i squared. And so these terms right here cancel out. We have -8 and we have plus 18. But the thing is, the I squared will become a -1. And so we have -8 plus -18 equals -26. So there are ways that we could do this. This is not the only one, but I think it's just really important. Like, I made this problem, and when I was reviewing this problem to do it with you guys today, I was like, oh crap, like, how do you actually do this? So remember, these are not always easy for the people making the problem, for the students doing them, for teachers doing them. So it's a great opportunity to have empathy, and really just a really important reason why we should be doing these ahead of time before we use them with students. So let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to hear about it.